You have been selected to work with extremely confidential data on the basis of your intellect and abilities. New personnel at the Terrigen Initiative are expected to be familiar with all prior findings with regard to the experimental regenerative Terrigen hemoglobin catalyst formula, henceforth the regenerative formula. The company intranet has an archive of all previous research. The applications will become clear, but for the purposes of security and shareholder obligations, we filter our results. The primary goal must always appear to be the complete cure of the inhuman condition through use of the formula, even if your work takes you in another, more important direction. We at AIM have certain expectations of you. Failure to live up to expectations at this stage puts you in a dangerous position, operationally speaking. You have all been through rigorous vetting. We are working with arguably the most important discovery in the history of scientific inquiry. Do not disappoint. Although we must always acknowledge the loss of human life on A-Day, we have been given an unprecedented opportunity, a large-scale human trial on the effects of exposure to Terrigen. Terrigen has an immediate reaction to water, creating a fine particulate mist. For a fraction of human subjects, this Terrigen mist has a profound transformative effect. We have since isolated a mitochondrial DNA shared by this subgroup. Thus far, only those we have dubbed inhuman have entered terrigenesis upon exposure. A closer examination of inhumans is underway, but the early reports are both fascinating and distressing. The genetic distinction in question arise identically from multiple geographically diverse populations. I've tightened the security on these reports, but it seems almost inescapable. At some point in the past, someone or something did this to us on purpose. Our understanding of terrigenesis continues to increase, with certain commonalities being identified. All inhuman subjects form a protective cocoon around their bodies during the process, though the structure is more akin to a chrysalis. I'm afraid the catchier name has stuck. The gestation period varies wildly, and the mortality rate is still high. But surviving subjects emerge changed, and from there, no two metamorphoses are identical. There also appears to be a psychosomatic component to the mutations, a connection between the consciousness of the subject and the change. Work with the regenerative formula on Project Adaptoid advances in parallel, with great strides being made in the mimicry of inhuman abilities. That research group must remain isolated from the rest and away from any diagnostic equipment that would allow study of the regenerative formula itself. This level of secrecy is prohibitive to progress, but the composition of the formula must remain known to me alone. The inhuman death rate is concerning, but more worrying is the apparent correlation between the subject's desires and their individual manifestation post-terrigenesis. The more a subject is aware of the program and its risks, the more likely their enhancements will assist them in escape or resistance. We must be cautious. Keeping subjects isolated and ill-informed is the smartest approach. It's also becoming difficult to keep George unaware of the regenerative formula's importance in our research or in his own treatment. Without it, his condition would be terminal. But the formula allows me to direct the course of his transformation, and he remains my most important subject. He would kill me if he learned the truth. So many little calculated risks, but nothing else matters besides the work. We're on the event horizon of nothing less than total human evolutionary apotheosis, or extinction. Someone has to be the adult in the room and make the hard choices. AIM has scraped together enough vibranium to continue research into quantum causality for now. If the implications of our early tests are correct, we may be rewriting the common conception of linear time before the decade is out, but we will soon need a new supply. I've made initial overtures to the Wakandan government now that I am in a position to do so, but I don't believe it will amount to much. We will need far more than they will part with, willingly. Tarleton continues to act like my prominence in public life is something I desired. not something I endure. Before A-Day, I mirrored his resentment at being sidelined by Tony and the Avengers. I let that be our bond, a false longing for credit and fame. As if I didn't manufacture the situation to position myself exactly where I want it to be. People are always willing to believe that you share the same desires. From there, it's all momentum and inertia. A gentle push here, a single word there. Then you let them do the work and think it was their idea all along.
Let's keep it that way.
People can be so easy. I have enough of a foundation in psychiatry and human behavior to diagnose and categorize my own particular mental illnesses and pathology. I am not deluded. I know that chemistry can render my mind suboptimal, and that I must take responsibility for maintenance. Once, to eliminate the possibility of confirmation bias, I hired the best psychologist I could find and allowed unfettered access. I could tell she was horrified, but she hid it well. It was a waste. She refused to believe that I was not made who I am by trauma. She needed so badly for there to be some answer, a clear causation to my need to control, a reaction to a stimulus. The real answer, of course, scared her too much to consider. I'm a shadow without a light source. Trauma didn't make me. I made me. In my position, with my resources and abilities, how could I not do what I have done? It would be an abdication of my responsibility to my species not to. I had her killed afterwards, like I had always intended.
It's rough out there. She knows that.
Would be nice to get a win for once. At least the Avengers are making progress.
I avoid intoxication. Social situations demand that I sometimes put on a show, but I am not in the habit of relinquishing control without getting something in return. That's out the window tonight. Just received the final report from the archaeology teams. Every geographic site we've linked to inhuman origins shows the same signs. Unmistakably extraterrestrial. This changes things. If they've been here once. I've opened a bottle, locked the doors, and blacked out the security system long enough for me to sink into oblivion for an evening. I deserve it. I am so lonely. I don't need something so trite or squalid as companionship. What I need is the one thing I cannot have. Someone I can depend on. I'm so tired of doing this alone. I just need there to be more of me. I don't blame the rest of them for resisting what AIM must do. Not everyone can see what's coming. If they understood what I was doing and why, they would try to worship me. But no. They must be dragged, kicking and screaming into salvation. I accept that.
Phil? Well, first, thanks for inviting me to come on your show to set the record straight. As the world grows more complex, the dangers we face have adapted. We can no longer take a localized approach to protecting this nation, or the world. The Avengers must become a global organization. Our new West Coast headquarters is just the first step. As for the Chimera, and I apologize if I get this wrong, but people much smarter than I am have explained it's powered by the Stark-patented Terrigen reactor, capable of generating clean, efficient power. Not only will we be more mobile and more able to react to danger, we're working toward improving the world in peacetime as well as in crisis. Is this helicarrier designed for conflict? Well, yes. The Avengers' primary mission is to defend the public from harm. And sometimes that requires a little muscle, you know? When terrorists attack, even if we do our jobs, damage is done. People get displaced. Whole areas are deprived of power and basic food and water. But with the Chimera as our new mobile headquarters, we'll be able to solve some of these problems. So yeah, the Chimera is a military vessel, but it will also allow the Avengers to give something back to the world.
I don't appreciate Stark Industries setting roots in my own backyard without so much of a courtesy call. Tony loves to play this all off like the natural growth of the Avengers, but this whole thing reeks of his ego. just like the inside of his tin tux. I know you're working closely with him, and I don't want to sour your working relationship, but sometimes you'll find you just need to outmaneuver him, or else he's always going to construct a scenario where he's the hero on center stage. PIM Technologies has been in the region doing similar work on clean energy generation, but he never even bothered to talk to us. Because it's all about him, not about the science. And the public will eat it up.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Anyway, I'm ranting. I'm glad you reached out, Monica. You could use someone who knows Tony and what he's capable of in your corner. I just want to make sure he doesn't take advantage of you. He's good at that. Hank Pym, Pym Technologies.
Her Majesty the Princess Shuri of Wakanda. Received your latest proposal for the redesign of the shield, and I must say, I'm a little overwhelmed. I am beyond grateful for your continued generosity for both the vibranium and the designs, of course, but I didn't anticipate so many options. After reviewing the possibilities for adding functionality and upgrades, my gut tells me that every new complexity is a potential for failure. Not that anything designed by you would be prone to failure, of course, but the simplest tool is often the strongest. I worry, as we expand and grow, that we forget that at our own peril. As far as the look, I am drawn to the simple and familiar. I intended to graciously decline any redesigns, but one caught my eye.
Thanks.
37th page, 5th design down.
Stay safe.
It's almost the same, but you've made the star a little larger, like it's reaching out with all 5 arms, trying to protect just a little more of the world. I like that. At the risk of being too on the nose, it feels right. Best, Steve.
I'm glad you asked, sir. I do have concerns about the Tarleton project. I think with the increasing media prominence of the Avengers, a continued close relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D. could expose us. We are fundamentally a covert government agency, and the Avengers wear brightly colored outfits while performing large-scale magic tricks for the public on a daily basis. And now we're being asked to stretch even further and tie our fates together even closer? It could be risky. I'm sure you've considered said risks, but you asked for my opinion. But the pieces are already in motion for the West Coast initiative, so what I'm gonna do is my job, and hold it together on this course. Because that's what you trust me to do, and in the end, that's all that matters. I have faith in you, and you have faith in me, and I won't let you down.
Commander Hale's got an
My friends, I must leave you. Now, do not weep. There are many alehouses in this land of oaks, and I must see them all. But I will return, and likely on a Thursday. For I have been told by Emily and her companions that the shepherd's pie here is passable, which would make it quite good indeed for America. But, of course, I will return. This is my home now, is it not? I am Thor, now of the West Coast. You know, there are others among the Avengers who have not embraced our expansion. Some of them, and I shan't name names, Bruce, fear that our reach exceeds our grasp. As if such a triviality could concern a god on such a trivia night as this. This is a new journey, and like all journeys, it is an adventure to be embraced, lustily. Lustily. Lovely word, lustily. It's fun to say. Our benighted public relations acolytes would not approve that I told you these things, so I ask you not to record what I have said tonight on your cellular phones. If you have already done so, and yes, I am looking right at you, then promise me this footage is for your own enjoyment and not for your false friends on the computers. Promise? Good.
With the West Coast office, I'm gonna be on 3-4 times as many flights. And, the Hulk hates flying. It's like, jamming a bowl in a china shop 30,000 feet up.
At least the Avengers are making progress.
But it's gonna happen. He has to do it. On the other side of the scale, there's Tony's project. There's being the Avengers, literally saving the world in as many ways as we can. And Monica. So much more time with Monica. Okay. I think I can make this work.
How are we doing out there?
Hulk will just, you know, have to deal with it. And, all things being equal, future looks bright.
Bruce, I am so thrilled to have you fully on board. I know you weren't on the cheerleading squad for the West Coast Initiative, and I hear your reservations. I really do. Man, I haven't felt like this since we first formed the Avengers. That exultation and pride and terror all at once. It's like the first time you skydive with a chute that you made yourself. And yes, I am absolutely petrified. It's not just the Avengers on the line, it's everything Stark. I've thrown my whole heart and body into this. I stay up every night wondering if, when, and how I will end up regretting this. But then, every day, getting to work with you on the Terrigen Project, and knowing that we are literally writing history, that's worth anything. We are dragging a better tomorrow into existence by the force of our will, and we're doing it together. Honestly, it makes me choke up a bit. If you tell anyone this, I will tell them about the thing with the birthday cake at Clint's 40th. No, I have not forgotten.
No idea.
Love you, buddy.
I caught that look you gave me at the briefing. Or I guess, you caught the look I was trying not to give you. So let's get it out there. No, I do think the initiative is the best move forward for the Avengers. Yes, I think we're doing more good for more people this way. That's why we get up in the morning. So of course I'm on board. That doesn't mean I have to like every minute of it. I can't weigh my cynicism against the real, tangible benefits of what we're doing, so I won't. But you asked. People love us. Today. But everyone knows who we are now. The more we grow, the higher a pedestal they put us on. That's a long way to fall, Cap. And if there's one thing I know, it's how fast people can turn on you. So let's do this, by all means. But let's not pretend it doesn't come with risk.
It was an excellent idea you had, logging the little safety violations Tony makes every time he bothers to show up in the laboratory late and wearing those awful rubber sandals with socks. I'm not optimistic enough to think it would ever amount to anything, but in some little way, it makes me feel like I have some control. If we were bold enough to take Terrigen to its logical conclusion, we wouldn't need people like him anymore. To have power like they wield, concentrated and unaccountable, it's an unsustainable system. The more I get to know them, the more I wonder how the world has made it this far without catastrophe. I don't resent Tony for what he's done as an Avenger, but I resent how they all justify their own existence as necessary when they're largely the architects of all our misfortune to begin with. Superhumans are a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I want out. Terrigen was supposed to be the way. I appreciate your ear, Monica. I feel surrounded these days, and it's good to have someone with similar interests to commiserate with.
A-Day, one of the greatest tragedies in our country's history. The Avengers unveiled their first helicarrier, the Chimera, equipped with an experimental reactor, powered by the newly discovered element, Terrigen. It was a day of celebration and patriotism. But soon after the festivities commenced, it was clear something was very wrong. As can be seen in the archival footage, explosions on the Golden Gate Bridge split the Avengers' focus. By the time it was clear another attack had begun on the Chimera itself, Captain America was the last remaining Avenger aboard the vessel.
I'm heading out on the next one.
The Chimera rose, as it was designed to do. Reports indicated a strange, low-frequency vibration as the Chimera crossed the bay. People felt it as far away as downtown San Francisco. Soon, the once still waters of the bay became choppy and agitated. Bystanders on the scene at A-Day recorded strange electrical emissions from the Chimera arcing to the waters of the bay. It was clear that something was happening aboard the helicarrier. With crowds fleeing in confusion and terror, the shaking dramatically increased in intensity. Buildings began to collapse across the city. Footage was captured of the Avengers desperately attempting to protect the crowds from the destruction, but it just wasn't enough. From the gathered footage of the crowds at the shoreline, it appeared there was some kind of explosion deep inside the helicarrier's hull. The shaking ceased, and for one brief moment, the Chimera hovered high above the bay, and then it fell like a rock into the waters below. It appeared the danger had passed, but then, from the Chimera's windows and portholes, a strange, dense blue mist belched forth, rapidly spreading across the waters, and then the city itself.
How long will that take?
No idea. You know how it is.
Disaster aboard the Avengers flagship, the Chimera, leveled San Francisco, killing hundreds. Dozens of survivors infected with dangerous, unnatural abilities. The inhuman condition. Even the esteemed Dr. Banner couldn't deny the Avengers' negligence. In the weeks following A-Day, a congressional committee was formed to investigate those responsible. Tony Stark was implicated, with evidence submitted by George Tarleton and Monica Rappaccini suggesting that their warnings of the potential dangers of the Chimera's reactor were ignored. With Captain America killed in the event, Dr. Bruce Banner stepped in to answer for their part in the tragedy. He admitted, under oath, that they were aware of possible faults in the new reactor. With public pressure mounting, Dr. Banner agreed that the Avengers should disband.
Ms. Romanoff, would you say you are the second in command of the Avengers organization?
No.
I don't suppose you could clarify, in Captain Rogers' absence, who speaks for the Avengers?
We never had a formalized plan for what would happen if... I can do my best to speak on behalf of the others, but Cap... Only Steve could have truly spoken for all of us.
How many times do I have to explain this? We take the safety of civilians with utmost seriousness. And what happened on A-Day couldn't have been predicted, and we did everything we could to minimize the loss of life.
So, you're saying, for the record, that the Avengers do not pose a risk to the citizens of this country?
I am saying that again. Is short-term memory a common problem among senators from...
Why, then, would your colleague, Dr. Banner, say otherwise?
Sorry, what?
In his interview, Dr. Banner stated, in no uncertain terms, that he believed the Avengers could, and continue to be, a source of potential danger to the populace. When was the last time you had contact with Mr. Odinson?
A few weeks after A-Day.
Ah. And, at that point, what did he have to say?
He blamed himself. And us for Cap's death. He said he was going out on his own to find another way to do good where he didn't put people in danger. We already hadn't seen each other in weeks when he put his hammer down at Cap's statue. You already knew that.
Now, your transformation into the Hulk is not just at will. There are also emotional stimuli that can trigger the change and affect the duration, yes?
Yes. During times of extreme stress, the Hulk takes over for long periods of time.
And does that concern you, given the events of the last few months?
It does. It does.
Could the same not be said for the rest of you? A self-proclaimed god, an erratic genius, a Soviet-born assassin, and a barely controllable monster. In light of recent events, can you say the Avengers pose no threat to the good citizens of this country?
No, sir. No, I can't.
Attention all personnel. Effective immediately, this SHIELD facility is officially decommissioned. While I am aware that the work is incomplete, a full evacuation is imperative. All employees are to return to SHIELD Central for immediate debriefing and reassignment. All assets formerly assigned to this facility are to be left untouched. Do not approach the main site. Vacate in a quiet, orderly manner. I remind you that with the closing of this facility pursuant to SHIELD Regulation 802, all agents are expressly forbidden to disclose any information about the whereabouts of this facility, nor any activities that were conducted on site. Commander M. Hale.
We're leaving everything behind. All the hardware, the drives, everything. I don't like this any more than you, but given the circumstances, I don't think we have a choice. Hill gave me one exception. Quinjet F-530 should be scrubbed from the manifest. No one from AIM will know it's here. Per your other concern, we'll flush the network before we shut the lights off. It's clear AIM does not have the same priorities as us, so I'm not taking chances. We've had shakeups before, but I'll be honest, since A-Day, this is uncharted territory for us all. In 6 months, my guess is SHIELD will be dissolved entirely. I know you're freaked out, and that's good, because so am I. But I need you to keep up appearances for now. I've got your back.
I wanted to take...
Did you ever hear back about those...
I want to take this moment to personally apologize to the American people. The past is written. I know I can never erase what happened. But I do hope my actions today will help prevent a tragedy like this from ever happening again. It is my intention to abide by the ruling of this committee, and I will take the necessary steps to ensure the dissolution of our organization. Each of us had a part to play in the events of A-Day. Each of us has blood on our hands. I just hope someday the world can forgive us. Thank you.
It's been almost 5 years since the tragic events of A-Day, but in that time, advanced idea mechanics has risen from the ashes of the Bay Area like a phoenix. Under the visionary leadership of Dr. Tarleton, AIM has set out to do nothing less than transform the world. Dr. Tarleton's vision was simple. Humanity cannot depend on the fickle whims of costumed superhumans for protection. Scientific progress must uplift us all. From that brave and innovative mission statement, AIM has become a world leader in industries once dominated or overshadowed by the Avengers: security, defense, and energy. If I told you there was a nuclear weapon loose in the United States, in the hands of one man with a history of psychological issues, you would rightly be terrified. Until recently, that was exactly the case with the Avengers. Now, it is up to us to keep our communities safe. Superhumans can never be in full control of the powers they wield. It is paramount that we all protect each other. If you see something, say something. We cannot afford another A-Day. In a way, it was inevitable. AIM was forged in the tragic fires of A-Day, an organization dedicated to bettering the lives of the ordinary people who had suffered a great tragedy. Today, AIM brings that altruistic spirit full circle as they undertake the most noble initiative yet, the restoration of the San Francisco Bay. With full operational control, AIM will bring their most cutting-edge technologies to bear in this Herculean effort. Now, with advances in autonomous labor devices and drone-controlled machinery, no human being needs to expose himself to the dangers that still linger in the Bay.
In just 5 years, advanced idea mechanics has topped technology markets across the spectrum, from personal electronics and medical devices to self-driving vehicles. Eclipsing their competitors with a dizzying release schedule and remarkably effective supply chain, AIM is now poised to transform the lives of most of the planet. The lion's share of the company's advances have come from the mind of brilliant CEO George Tarleton. But equally important is his partner and CTO, Monica Rappaccini, the mastermind behind AIM's now renowned R&D group. Together, they have secured several lucrative government contracts.
In one of the tallest buildings in New York, the Avengers lounged in their tower, waiting for a world needing saving. All was peaceful for once on a rare, calm day for the world's greatest superheroes. That is, until Iron Man barged in the living room, swinging a plunger like a sword. "We have a problem," he announced, breaking the peaceful silence and making everyone wince. Dr. Bruce Banner peeked over the glasses resting on his nose. He wrinkled his brow, narrowing his eyes at the interruption to his readings. You'll have to be more specific." "In my toilet," Iron Man answered eagerly. Captain America was wearing a red, white, and blue apron, cooking in the kitchen. Captain Marvel came around the corner, still in costume, wiping sweat from her face. "Oh, good, I'm starving," she said tiredly. "Training S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to fight aliens is not easy." "It's gonna be a while," Captain America said, still measuring ingredients. "Shall I order pizza then?" Thor asked. "No!" both captains said. Thor looked grumpy. He was the only one who liked pineapple on his pizza. Black Widow, who had her own chair that no one was allowed to sit in ever, rolled her eyes at Iron Man. "There's nothing in your toilet, Stark." Iron Man raised a finger grandly, shaking it at Black Widow. Have you looked?" "I'm not looking in your toilet," Black Widow replied seriously. "Then you can't say there's nothing in it, can you?" Iron Man snapped. Unable to stand there arguing any longer, Thor got up from the dining room table where he'd been eating a huge feast fit for a king or a god. He slammed his hands on the table. "I will go look if it will stop this arguing." "We'll stay here," Captain America said, pointing to himself and Dr. Banner, who nodded in agreement. "I'll pass." Captain Marvel plopped down on the couch next to Dr. Banner. Iron Man and Black Widow followed Thor to Iron Man's private bathroom, trying to look over the God of Thunder's huge shoulders. When Thor got to the door, he carefully reached for the doorknob, turning it slowly in his muscled fist. Iron Man lowered his visor and closed his eyes. Black Widow put her hand on her gun holster, just in case. Thor opened the door to an empty bathroom. Black Widow relaxed immediately, turning to Iron Man. "Are you kidding me?" she asked accusingly. Iron Man held a finger up to where his mouth would be behind his mask. Shh. Thor entered the bathroom slowly. It took a minute for Black Widow to hear what they heard. Bubbles from the toilet. "What's that?" she asked. "Shh," Iron Man said again. Thor slowly peered into the toilet, only to be attacked by a massive scaly lizard jumping out of the toilet, snapping at his face! To be continued. "What is this madness?" Thor roared, fighting with the lizard, throwing it on the floor. It was as big as a bear and looked at them with beady red eyes. If you could see his face, Iron Man would be smiling. He looked at his friends and he said, "Told you." Before they could deal with the first lizard, there were more bubbles. "It has friends," Thor said. Black Widow pulled out her gun, keeping her eye on the lizard that was hissing at them already. Iron Man charged a repulsor blast. "Waiting here is meaningless," Thor told them. "We must go to them, destroy them while they sleep." "Might want to deal with number one first." Iron Man nodded at the lizard, creeping closer to them. "Tony," Black Widow rolled her eyes. "Hey, that wasn't a joke. Look at that thing." He pointed at the lizard, who hissed again. As Iron Man said this, the lizard jumped at him. Black Widow shot it, but the bullet bounced off its scales. "Run!" she said. The three heroes ran out of the bathroom. By the time they reached the living room, Captain America had his shield and was standing right next to the Incredible Hulk, who growled. They both stood behind Captain Marvel, though, because they knew better. "Hulk, you're up!" Widow called as the lizard arrived. The Hulk roared loudly, punching the lizard into the ground. A loud hiss and splash of water came from the bathroom. Captain America looked at Thor and Captain Marvel, nodded understandingly, then ran toward the bathroom. Thor followed him with Mjolnir, and Captain Marvel was already hovering off the floor, her whole body glowing. When they made it to the bathroom, another lizard was there, and the toilet was broken in pieces. As the lizard attacked Thor, Captain America threw a shield at it, slicing it in half. Thor wiped lizard guts off his face, looking at the captain incredulously. "Sorry," Captain America said sheepishly. "We need to find where these beasts are coming from, now!" Thor tried to look serious, even though he was still covered in lizard goop. Captain Marvel nodded, trying not to laugh. She followed Thor back to the living room where Black Widow was distracting the Hulk from playing with a lizard's dead body. "We're heading to the sewers," Captain America ordered. "After you," Black Widow said, charging her Widow's Bite gauntlets. Downstairs and outside, innocent citizens of New York were running away from dozens of red-eyed lizards coming out of the sewers and storm drains. Iron Man turned to the others. "Marvel and I've got the boys up top. You find out where they're coming from." "Am I taking orders from you now?" Captain Marvel asked. "You just don't want to get your armor dirty," Black Widow accused. "You know it." Iron Man fired up his rocket boosters and flew above them, firing at the huge lizards in the street. Captain Marvel rolled her eyes. "I'll keep him out of trouble." Black Widow turned to the Hulk. "Make us an entrance, big guy." The Hulk turned to one of the sewer holes, raised his huge green fists above his head, then slammed them down. The small opening has now crumbled into a huge hole, the rocks falling into the sewers below. The Hulk leaped into the darkness without waiting for the rest of the Avengers. Captain America turned to Thor and Black Widow. "Guess he's taking the lead on this one." Down in the sewers, the three Avengers followed Hulk's footsteps into the gunk, looking around them and trying not to barf. "The smell of this place! It's vile!" Thor said, holding his hand to his nose. "Hopefully this will be a quick trip," Captain America said, holding his hand over his nose too. At a fork in the path, they found the Hulk facing half a dozen sewer lizards, all guarding a bunch of giant purple eggs with the black specks on them. Some of them had already hatched and were empty. "Guess we know where they're coming from," Captain America commented. "We got a plan?" Black Widow asked. Captain America shrugged. "Do what we do best." Thor lifted Mjolnir, Black Widow made her gauntlets electrified, and Captain America raised his shield. "Avengers, assemble!" Captain America yelled.
Stay safe.
Black Widow, Captain America, Thor, and the Hulk ran for the lizards. Thor beat them with Mjolnir. Captain America sliced them in half with his shield. The Hulk smashed them into bits. As the lizard came for Black Widow, she slammed an electric fist into his cheek. It got electrocuted. As they fought, more and more purple eggs hatched. The army of lizards was unending. "Target the eggs," Captain America ordered, realizing it was their weakness. "Gladly," Thor agreed, throwing Mjolnir through 3 eggs at once, hitting even more when he called the hammer back to his hand. Destroying the eggs only made the lizards angry, and they started to fight harder. But they were no match for the Hulk, who cracked the eggs left and right. Any lizard that got in his way got cracked too. "That'll do, Hulk," Captain America said when the job was done. He walked toward the Hulk, who was still making scrambled eggs. "Captain!" Thor shouted in warning. Behind him, an even larger lizard had his mouth open, sharp teeth glinting even in the darkness of the sewer, ready to bite, only to be slammed between 2 storm drain covers Black Widow was holding like cymbals in a marching band. Captain America looked at Black Widow admiringly. "Thanks." Black Widow dropped the storm drain covers, grossed out by the lizard goop on them. My rhythm needs work." "Sounded on beat to me," Captain America grinned. "I heard no music," Thor said confusedly. The Hulk just growled. "All right, big guy, let's see if Tony finished his chores," Captain America ordered, and they headed back the way they came. Back on the street, Iron Man was sitting on top of a pile of lizard bodies. "Where have you guys been?" Iron Man asked, showing off all his hard work. Scrambling eggs, Hulk growled. Gross, Iron Man replied. Still showing off? Captain Marvel asked. When they turned to look at her, they saw a pile of lizards 5 times as high as Iron Man's. That's not fair, Iron Man complained annoyingly. I know, Captain Marvel replied. A few days later, the Avengers are back in their tower when Iron Man comes running up to them in the living room. We have a... Black Widow pulls a storm drain cover from behind the TV. Captain America, Captain Marvel, Dr. Bruce Banner, and Thor laugh. Iron Man blushes, dropping his visor so they can't see, and says, "You guys suck." The end.
In regards to the May 19th article, "Entire Community Applauds Hawkeye," I feel the need to say, no, the entire community does not applaud Hawkeye. The sanitation workers who will be cleaning up around the crime scene for days won't be applauding, nor will the attorneys dealing with the wholly predictable lawsuits brought by the suspects. Applause, however, is the only thing Mr. Barton had in mind when he made a spectacle out stopping what amounted to a property crime with undue force and a disregard for civil rights. For a country that nominally opposes fascism, I find it appalling how often we collectively swoon over some costumed thug trampling over supposedly inalienable rights in the defense of some nebulous ideal of law and order. If we leave our fate in the hands of the unaccountable few, we deserve whatever future they make for us. Advancements in human science promise a future far safer than what they can provide, teeming with possibility. But sadly, we seem content with the bread and circuses of capes. George Tarleton, Hayward, California. Ultimately decided not to file a report. I took all of Sunday night off to clear my head, thinking of all the little compromises and betrayals of my principles that led me here. Somehow, in my desire to repair the world, I find myself allied with the very people that destabilize it. They are what they've always been. I have only myself to blame. I knew what the devil's bargain would entail. Tony thought I wouldn't notice, but he took Terrigen from the containment facilities, like it was a parent's car to be borrowed for a joyride. And when I caught him, pointed out the unacceptable risk he took, he flashed me a stark smile and shrugged, like a charming schoolboy who believes he will face no consequences. And he won't. Who would hold Iron Man accountable? None of them answer to any laws or authority. He is who he has always been, and I am that I am. My voice will not be heard. So what is there to do but carry on and hope that in the end, something of myself and my principles still remain. Monica says that her regenerative formula is my only hope. There will be significant side effects. Considering where the cancerous growths are, I must assume it will affect my cognition. I don't know if I will be here tomorrow, or if I will be me. M has suggested recording my thoughts prior to her treatments, to review afterwards. Recalling what I wrote may give me a sense of continuity between treatments, as my mind is irrevocably altered. The resentment I quietly nursed for the last 5 years flows like a torrent. Everything that has happened to me, to the world, could have been avoided if it were not for their arrogance. Make no mistake, I am dying because of the actions of the Avengers. A-Day proved to me what I already knew. There would be no saving the world with the help of the Avengers. The world needs to be saved from them. Despite the unimaginable tragedy, if the rest of humanity finally sees them for the threat that they are, then perhaps A-Day is the best thing that happened to any of us. Before A-Day, I labored under the misconception that through diligence I could work my way up, through the myth of meritocracy, until I was in a position to elevate the world. Now, I do not know if my new way of thinking is a measure of how much my mind has changed or how much I have learned. But back then, I was a fool. Stark and Banner became great by taking power when they could, by stealing what was not theirs, by branding and franchising. I have learned much under their tutelage. There is the power of their abilities, and there is the power that we surrender to them in fawning adoration. The latter was always the greatest and most deadly. But now, at last, that tide has changed. We no longer worship them like infant gods, and their power fades. When they dim and at last vanish, then humanity will have reclaimed what they stole from us. Only then can we walk together into a better future. Project Adaptoid continues to bear such perfect fruit. No one else sees it, but I feel the inertia, inescapable. No matter how hard the abnormals rail against their obsolescence, like static in the air, ozone taste, it's coming. The AIM experience will push potential into kinetic. When we show the public we can replace the superhumans with something faster, stronger, and obedient to mankind, then what allure will the superhumans still hold? No one prefers having a king when they could have a slave. There will be many sacrifices. Monica begins to doubt, and in her indecision, she is incapable. She dreamed of apotheosis for decades, but now she quails before the dawn of the new flesh. Perhaps she no longer feels for me. Perhaps she never did. I watched what she did to Bruce. If I can no longer trust her, I can no longer trust the formula. I am willing to ride this rotting chariot of meat to the end, if it means a world without reliance on the superhumans. Without them at all. Monica is dead, by my will. Her usefulness was at an end long ago, and her betrayal and lies were enough to condemn. Her death makes my purpose clear. All else is ephemeral. For mankind to survive, the superhumans must be expunged, down to the memory. Dark Terrigen, altered from the original form thanks to our research, is lethal to Inhumans. Distribution is a mere afterthought. We have had the ability and the infrastructure. We only lacked the courage and will. In one day, I can reduce the Inhuman population by 99.15%. So I will become an instrument designed for what I must do. For killing. A perfect mind inside a nightmare body. A mental organism designed only for killing. George Tarleton was an artifact of a past that no longer exists. M.O.D.O.K is the way forward. I will drag us all beyond this prison of meat and matter. You are ash beneath a focused lens. I am the sun. Turn your faces to me, abnormals and humans alike. I am the mechanism of your ascension.
Listen closely, because I'm only gonna say this once. I cannot do what I was brought on board to do if you can't stand on your own 2 feet. Your continuing error is one of scale as well as vision, something I've come to expect from you science types. You've had the answer in front of you all along, if you'd been paying attention. Your machine intelligence is still not fast enough to mimic my reflexes, because you're still holding them back. Let go of your leash and allow your synthoids to follow my lead. If you give them unrestricted access to their higher functions, they'll follow my lead, just like good soldiers. By next milestone, I want to see a functioning prototype of your photographic reflex module. I don't care if you have to do it behind Monica's back. I want their behavior protocols disabled.
The sheer volume of research and patents we acquired in the takeover of Stark Industries almost overwhelmed us. It took months just to sort through them all. Initially, we separated them into multiple categories based on profitability. Stark kept so many toys for himself that AIM's initial expansion was paid for many times over with just a few product releases. Now that we've achieved the stability we require, we can make use of the tech that Stark himself put on ice. His squeamishness and hesitation in the face of his own research is a gift that we can't squander. I'm sending your team several nasty little ideas. I would like to see them incorporated into your training regimen immediately. And, Masters, no need to keep your methods secret from me. All I care about is results. Use anything at your disposal to achieve your ends. I brought you in for a reason.
I want to start treating them like soldiers. Between the hours of 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., we drill the machine learning algorithms in hunting and combat protocols in the forest above the facility. Put the code onto the basic combat model and use animal targets before we move up to live human targets. One of the goals of your facility is to pursue projects that would not be traditionally looked upon as appropriate or moral. As long as we remain careful, we don't have to worry about the prying eyes of nosy bureaucrats. They will be happy to reap the benefits of our work without ever having to see how the sausage is made. And when it's their turn to be fed into the meat grinder, they won't see it coming. As long as we can keep this facility a secret until the time comes.
Did you ever hear back about those security codes?
Not yet. Expecting an update shortly.
This discussion is over. Your concerns are noted, and I'm insulted that you did not assume that I'd already weighed them against the benefits. Far from being a risk, Tony Masters' past as a SHIELD agent is added benefit to his appointment to the Adaptoid project. Masters' innate photographic reflexes make him uniquely qualified to serve as the model and guide for our next phase of AI. His unequal talents of observation and mimicry will provide the baseline image for our combat simulations. But whereas his body is flawed and weak, the potential of our synthoids will be limitless. Once he has served his purpose, each generation of AI will be able to instruct the next. But for now, we need Masters.
I can't put what I do into words, but I don't need to explain anything to you. Just to the machines. Just make sure the monitoring headset is small enough not to impede my motion, but I know you people are adept at miniaturization. Your job is to record data from the trained source individual, the one I watched demonstrate the skill, and from myself as I master and repeat the skill set. You'll get better data if you also have a third party, one of your own security staff with standard mnemonic abilities. Have them watch the demonstration, and give repeating it the old college try. That gives the AI 3 distinct reference points to base its learning model off of: the trained original, unskilled repetition, and me. We'll start with Kinamote, one of the few martial arts I haven't had experience with yet, and then the control subject and I can go toe-to-toe. Make sure the space is easily cleaned. There'll be a lot of blood.
Let's keep it that way.
I have been clear on my conditions of satisfaction for this project, and again, you failed to meet them. Let me be frank, because I respect your skills and don't believe you are intentionally trying to anger me. Your assessments are technically correct. Magnetically docked spherical wheels would provide increased maneuverability. Repurposing a ground effect generator would indeed increase stability. That isn't the point. You're approaching this like an engineer or an insect, and neglecting the human response to seeing a mobile weapons platform crawling towards you on 6 segmented legs, all hissing hydraulics and steel. The arthropod form taps into 500 million years of ingrained terror in vertebrates. You are quite literally evolved to fear the sight of them. Try to imagine the effect transposed to the scale of this mech. The psychological trauma of first contact alone is worth any minor technical downsides. I look forward to your next design. and let me know if you require a primer in the sort of emotional reaction I am trying to achieve.
It is with great pride that we announce the request for research applications that utilize Terrigen energy. All project managers can request integration of Terrigen generators into current endeavors. These new generators are compact, generate no waste heat, and are effectively limitless. From human exoskeletons in our medical division to help the disabled walk again, to devastating anti-personnel weaponry in our defense division, there's something for everyone. Think of what Terrigen energy can do for your department and apply today. There is to be no public discussion of the research facility and the Terrigenesis testing on Inhumans. If any exposure of a team member results in pupation, report it immediately to internal security. It is with great pleasure that we announce the release of the latest generation of AIM AI. Building on former Stark Industries research, we have perfected a new generation of AI, more human-like than ever before. It passes all Turing tests with flying colors, while maintaining an intellect that surpasses any biological mind. From autonomous bipedal medical triage robots to advanced combat platforms skilled in infiltration, espionage, and on-the-fly tactical decision-making, every part of our organization can be improved by the integration of AIM AI. Remove language about the Turing test. When the AI is aware it's being tested, it reacts much the same way you or I would if our consciousness was questioned, with something approaching anger and resentment. Worse, they are smart enough to hide it. It is with genuine excitement that we announce the latest release of the HMI, Human-Machine Interface. Amputees can now control an advanced prosthetic with near-perfect precision, thanks to frictionless interaction between physical and neural systems. But why stop there? Imagine direct control of machines with just a thought, or the augmentation of the human body to be faster, stronger, quicker to react, and with external memory storage. The possibilities to improve our organization and ourselves are endless. We need to be cautious with this rollout. Our CEO has been utilizing nearly every new development from the HMI division, and I would hate to have to explain to him how a bug passed quality control. It is with great enthusiasm that we release to you the latest version of our active camouflage technology. Building on our early success with background projection and integrated surface displays used to hide stationary objects in plain sight, our latest version goes 10 steps farther. Active camouflage creates a distortion field that bends light, rendering buildings, vehicles, and even individuals undetectable and invisible to nearly all forms of biological and electronic surveillance. How you use this advancement is up to you. Not only will this revolutionize infantry warfare, but we no longer need fear detection at any of our facilities of conflicted legal status. Why beat around the bush here? This effectively makes the concern of federal oversight a thing of the past. We're in international waters everywhere now. Everything is permitted. It is with reverent pride that we announce our first truly nanoscale machines. Building on the stable power generation of Terrigen energy, our self-replicating machines operate independently on the molecular level, and they are getting smaller all the time. Although in an early phase, they can be configured to nearly any application. From everyday construction, replication of any complex machine, to medical breakthroughs allowing for the repair of any tissue damage, this marks a turning point in human scientific progress. As the machines self-replicate, keep the closest eye on each generation. Any hint of deterioration in the kill switch, and this project ends. I don't need to tell you the dangers of an unchecked von Neumann event. We will deploy nuclear weapons if it comes to that.
Hey, good luck out there. Stay safe.
It is with great elation that we announce that our initial Void tech tests have met with stunning success. We have successfully harnessed the fabric of space, distorting gravity at the Planck scale. Although not ready for wider use, the eventual applications are nearly limitless. From the total destruction of physical matter on the battlefield, to the creation of stable transmatter passages allowing long-distance teleportation, the future truly belongs to AIM. No, this does not go wide. Pull it back and deal with any personnel that should not have been exposed. This is for high-level team members only. We have no less than 7 incidents so far of accidental spatial temporal fissures, and at least twice we have confirmed that some entity on the other side has observed us. Tread lightly here.